All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a good Monday. It is Monday, and the things are going well for all of you on the lead up to Yom Kippur, Aseret Yimei Tshuva. We're going to do a couple of short Rashis. It's a very difficult parsha, as you know. Haazinu, the poetry is difficult, the words are difficult. It's hard to know exactly what some of the intent of the psukim are, but we're going to look at one of them. And it's not an easy Rashi either. It's not easy to find Rashis on this parsha. And so I apologize for those of you who are in shul this morning. We're going to do the same Rashi again. I usually try to switch it up, but it's hard to find the right kinds of Rashis on Haazinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu, in talking a little bit to the Jewish people towards the end of his life over here in this poetic fashion, he calls the Shemayim Ba'aretz as witnesses about the giving of the Torah to the Jewish people, and then goes a little bit through Jewish history. Zechor Yemos Olam Binu Shnos Dor Vador. Perhaps according to this pasuk, there's actually a mitzvah to learn Jewish history. I've heard Rav Shachter talk about that numerous times. Seems like almost like a mitzvah. You should ask the previous generations and they will tell you. There's a mitzvah to learn about where we came from. And then he starts to talk a little bit about the history of the world. Banchel elyon goyim v'hafrido b'nei adam yatsev gevulot amim lemispar b'nei Israel. So, I'm sorry. Banchel elyon goyim, Rashi says, Banchel elyon goyim, kshehincha HaKadosh Baruch Hu lamachisav et chelak nachlatam etzifan ushetafan. It's talking about the Dor Hamabul. Banchel elyon goyim, when he gives all those who angered him that which they deserved, which is wiping out the world in the time of Noach. And then, Bahafrido b'nei Adam, next stage in Jewish history, even just you follow the Parshios, right? At the beginning of Parshas Noach is the Dor HaMabul. The end of Parshas Noach is the Dor HaFlaga, Bahafrido b'nei Adam, when he separates between people. After the flood, the generation that arises seems to unify quite strongly. They build a Migdal Bavel, they build this tower, Rosho Magia Shamaima, with its head in the heavens, and they were trying to, so to speak, take over the heavens in a very egregious fashion, disrespectful fashion to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because of the challenges that they presented to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his reign over the world, trying to make themselves godlike, and because of the super unity that Chazal described existed in the time of Migdal Bavel, so much so that any one person who was out of line, any one person who was different, was gotten rid of. So Hashem had to break up that encampment of humanity around Migdal Bavel and separate people out into different areas of the world, separate them out into different languages, instead of Safa Achat, which the Torah describes over there. So here, that's what's being described, the Hafrido b'nei Adam, when he separated out people. That's in the aftermath of Migdal Bavel. What he did at that point is Yatsev Gevulot Amim. He established the borders of the nations, Lemispar b'nei Israel, according to the numbers of the Jewish people. Very strange pasuk. I understand V'hafrido b'nei Adam, he had to separate between people. I understand that when he separated between people, Yatsev Gevulot Amim, he established the lines and the boundaries of different nations. We believe Hashem established the people of Bavel all over the world into 70 nations, 70 languages. It's the famous 70 that continues to come up over the rest of Jewish history, the 70 nations of the world, reflected in the coming holiday of Sukkot, in the 70 sacrifices that are brought in the Beis HaMikdash, universalism of Chag HaSukkot. Yatsev Gevulot Amim, he established the borders of nations, the distinct nations that would exist from the time of Migdal Bavel and going forward. What's strange is Lemispar b'nei Israel, according to the numbers of the Jewish people, there were no Jewish people then. Nothing had occurred yet. We didn't have Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We didn't have Yetzias Mitzrayim. We didn't have the Jewish nation yet. So what does Lemispar b'nei Israel mean? So Rashi explains over here, Lemispar b'nei Israel, Bishvil mispar b'nei Israel sha'atidin latzeis mibnei Shem, ulemispar shivim nefesh mibnei Israel sheyardu lemitzrayim, hetziv gevulos amim shivim lashon. Somehow the 70 nations, the 70 languages that were established in the time of Migdal Bavel were meant as a foreshadowing, or in order to reflect the future number 70 that would exist in the Jewish people, even though the Jewish people didn't exist yet. The future descendants of Shem that would establish the Jewish people, they had a number 70, and therefore now already in the time of Migdal Bavel, we're going to establish the nations of the world as 70. What's the 70 in the future of the Jewish people? Those are the 70 souls of Yaakov's family that come down to Mitzrayim, which eventually established the Jewish people and give forth the Jewish people. And therefore, in order to match that 70, we have 70 nations already in the time of Migdal Bavel. It's a Rashi that helps to explain the two pieces of this pasuk and how they fit together. It's Yatzev Gvulot Tamim Lemispar B'nai Israel. He established the borders of nations for the future Jewish people. But it's still hard, Rashi, to understand what exactly is the connection between the 70 nations and the 70 people. Why exactly was it important to establish them according to the future of the Jewish people? In some way, the way the Mefarshim read Rashi over here, you have to decipher exactly what's going on. But in a broad sense, what Rashi is conveying is this notion that HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrates the world for the sake of the Jewish people. That everything that happens in the world is for the eventual sake of the Jewish people and their trajectory in history. And it's a beautiful concept about the relationship HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with the Jewish people. Hashem has a relationship with the entirety of the world. Hashem, of course, has a relationship with all created beings. But there's a special, unique relationship that would be established with the Jewish people, starting with the Avos and Imahos, all the way certainly to Matan Torah and the establishment of the Jewish people, so much so that Hashem really orchestrates the rest of the world in the service of the Jewish people, for the sake of the Jewish people. Sometimes that's not a good sake. And unfortunately, Jewish people have suffered a lot in the course of history. It's described already in Parshas Kisava, Vayelech, Haazinu, some of the problems that we face in the course of our history. That's also orchestrated, through the rest of the world towards that end. But also all of the blessings and all of the wonderful things that happen to us are also foreshadowed, so to speak, in the DNA of the rest of the world and the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrates it because of that special relationship that we have with him. So it's a challenging concept, the one that requires a little bit more unpacking than we have time for today, but I'm presenting it and putting it out there for you, both because it helps explain this pasuk, but also because it is something important that we believe in, if we don't totally understand it in this moment, something that is important for us to think about. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy. And
Thank you.
Thank you. You too,
Have a
Rabbi.
good day,
Everybody.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Take care.
Enjoy the day, Rabbi.
You too.